Good to go? Okay. With it being just after 2 o'clock, let's go ahead and call the meeting of the City Design Review Board to order. Our minutes were emailed to everyone this past week. Did anybody have any amendments or changes that they saw? If not, we need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our first case to hear today is case DRB 2022-32 is to review the proposed amendments to the design guidelines for downtown Florence, South Carolina. Staff?
Good afternoon. Thank you. A couple of months ago, if you recall, we were looking at several parts of the design guidelines that were somewhat problematic, and you all asked staff to look at them and suggest some proposals. Last month, we brought some rather general proposals to you, and this month we've just incorporated those into the exact wording that would be in the design guidelines, and there is one part in the Unified Development Ordinance as well. This is the UDO section 620.3.5I, where it's talking about certificate of appropriateness being issued by staff, and the first situation is that any project or signage for which the total cost does not exceed the original wording, which was taken directly from the design guidelines, said $5,000. Since that was originally written back in 2005, and things have changed a little bit in the last 16 years, 17 years.
Triple the cost.
Exactly, and so that's what we're proposing is $15,000 to be the threshold. Then in the design guidelines themselves, the other area of concern was security measures in the overlay districts, and it was suggested in the old ordinance or in the guidelines, in amendment number 7 in chapter 1, which kind of covers all the overlay districts, the sentence, consideration of safety must be taken into account, but whenever possible, the use of open security grates or grills or special thick glass rather than roll down solid metal shutters is recommended in order to make the street attractive even when stores are closed. Obviously, after the case we had with the liquor store, that is not something that the board seemed to indicate they wanted. So the proposal is to remove that sentence from number 7 in chapter 1. And then likewise, let me go ahead to the storefront security. In chapter 3, it just does discuss storefront security more, and changing the paragraph that says, we would add the words, in order to avoid the implication of blight, and then roll down solid or mesh window and door covers are not allowed in the, and right now it says just Florence Historic District, we would amend that to read all overlay districts. Instead, it's recommended that thicker security glass be installed at ground level combined with alarm systems if needed. Lighting of the display windows in the evening hours also serves to deter crime. And then this, we took it out, but it is up to you all if you want to leave it in. Decorative metal security grills finished in dark colors are allowed on windows to the side and rear of buildings in this district. And we would make those changes to that paragraph in chapter 3, which deals with the historic district, as well as chapters 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 dealing with all the other districts. So that would be the other security amendments that would be made. And then in chapter 2, again, the application fee and the administrative threshold would be changed from $5,000 to $15,000. And then we would amend right now for a administrative COA, we don't charge anything, and the fee for the design review board is $100. We were proposing, in order to encourage people to come here before they do the work, that the fee be $100 prior to the work being done, but if it's already been done, double it, just like the building department does, double the fee to $200. And again, the threshold for administrative COAs would be tripled from $5,000 to $15,000. And that is the extent of them. We're re-looking at the sign part, because that was also brought up, that we wanted to clarify the sign ordinance. And we'll work on that and maybe bring that to you next month. So that concludes staff's report.
Thanks, staff. Is there anything we need to vote on at this time?
Yes, you would make a motion to accept those changes or make suggestions that you want to make changes to them.
Okay.
I have no questions. Did I hear you right? There is no application fee if it's done administratively?
That's correct.
Okay. Are y'all good with that?
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a big deal. It does, it helps people out who are doing simple things like just painting or doing shutters that wouldn't normally have to pay for a permit. I think Joey brought that up last
Yeah,
time.
I did some, nothing but just some painting, but wasn't changing anything, and I got it. It wasn't anything that anybody really need to review or anything. I just.
Yeah, and it that way it doesn't discourage people when they're doing simple projects to come and get our permission,
Okay,
because
I agree with
there's
that.
no fee or anything associated
And my
with
second
it.
question is on this, I agree that the rear and the side should have the option to have the additional security, because that's obviously, if you're gonna break in somewhere, that's where you kind of hunker down in the back. And but I do think we maybe need to consider the corner lots. Do they not, how do y'all consider, you consider a corner lot as having two fronts?
A corner lot?
Corner lot.
Yes, it would have two fronts.
So it would be, obviously a corner lot would have just the back and one,
That's
and
that's right. One side, one back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you'd want to leave that phrase in there.
As long as y'all have an understanding that how y'all implement the corner lot situation, I think it makes sense. And I'm thinking about the liquor store, for instance. I think that, I know they were worried about their front, but if they wanted to have put the bars or whatever on they're not a corner lot, but if they wanted to put it on both sides and the back, I think we would have been okay with that. I don't think we would have had,
I think, yeah.
there wouldn't have been much problem, I don't think. Would y'all?
No. Is it not a corner? There's a church on the corner.
Church on the corner.
Okay.
Next. Yeah, there is a
You're
church.
talking about the liquor store that's.
Beside the drive-in?
The Indian,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I would
I
have.
think that one side of it did face her business, and I think that her customers could see that side, and that was, I guess, one of the
Yeah,
other
that's a good
complaints
point, yeah.
was that it was visible to people dining in the area.
That's a great point, because if you sat in the dining room, you can see the bars, and that's kind of what, I don't know. But that's unusual.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of things that can happen on the sides of buildings that can quote unquote offend people, and you can have raw concrete block.
That's true.
You know, I don't know, I'm just trying to think out loud. Just
It would probably be a
make sure
good
we-
compromise, though, for, if she were here, that was an option for us at the time. I think the wording she uses, that people coming into town using that route would see it, but they wouldn't see the bars on the side of the building.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, coming in from that direction.
And another part of it is I was hoping we could figure out ways to get the word out better, so we wouldn't have the extra fee. We wouldn't have to pay, and I'm not talking about the board bill, and I know we mentioned maybe doing a little 10-minute thing for the board of realtors next time they had a luncheon, and because they could tell their clients when you buy something over here, before you do anything. I'd be happy to assist y'all in
Yeah,
together.
that'd be great. We'd be glad to
Yeah,
come.
and I think that would, because they could, as soon as you buy something, our agents could go, you need to, if you do anything.
Right. And we do work through the neighborhood associations, but they don't, and the downtown FDDC, but as you well know, not all members are.
And when contractors, even though in this case the contractor would be the picking up a permit or something like that, they should have already done it. But I think if the contractors, if this information is also distributed to contractors, then they know the next client needs to get out ahead of it.
Yeah, we could, sometimes contractors don't always follow through with their permits, which is often how they end up in this situation.
Yeah.
But if they're contractors, they regularly at least do business with the building department.
That's right.
We might could put some literature
I agree.
up there or something kind of in line of sight so that they're aware of it.
And then of course on the website, that's an easy one, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if a contractor gets a permit do they go to the building department? The building department knows, like they know it's, and they say, wait a minute, you need to do this before we.
They do. Our computer system has some stops set in place,
Okay,
and so the permitting clerks should, based on the address of where the work's being done, they have to answer whether it's in an overlay district. It's a yes or no question.
Okay.
So if they say no, it's not, and they didn't check it, then we have a person to say, hey, we have an employee to hold accountable. If it's the other way, then it automatically gets kicked back down to us. I think where we run into trouble is the contractors don't seek out permits at all,
Right.
or it's the type work such as painting or just shutters, things of that nature that don't require a building permit.
Okay.
That's where people really get into trouble.
Yeah, because they don't. So if somebody's doing the right thing, they'll get flagged, and you can. get it
That's right.
straight.
That's right. They typically get flagged.
If
We,
we do
and
it-
we do catch a lot of people, not catch them, but intercept
Right,
it
yeah.
so we can get it straight. Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of it we're able to handle administratively. I mean, simple house painting and shutters and things like that we're able to handle.
So if somebody was just doing some painting and they got flagged, that you would just make them. They wouldn't have to pay a fine. They would just be.
right.
Get it approved.
We get them approved. That's
Okay,
right.
okay.
As long as they're not doing anything crazy.
Yeah.
We had a gentleman paint his house orange and purple one time. So that was.
Scott, you'd be okay with that, wouldn't you?
What's wrong with that?
I was good. I was good with it.
I'm waiting on the problem.
That's right.
And
That's right. Well, the conversation I had with the gentleman on site was personally, I don't have a problem with it, but unfortunately your neighbor does.
it is pretty offensive. Put my architect's hat on that one.
Plus, since this will go to planning commission, there will be a public notice and public hearing on it.
And if we do leave the requirements in to allow, I guess grates or bars on the side and the rear, we might need to develop maybe some examples or stronger language in there as to what the materials can be and what they need to look like, because I know it does say decorative or the metal, but we might need to create some language in there that guides it somewhat and helps the design review board when they approve these as well.
Yes, the ultimate goal is to make it where we don't need bars with the greatest.
That would, that would be the perfect world.
The perfect world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the bars, so what the guy did at the front of the liquor store, and I should know this, but what was the issue with the bars themselves? Was it just the fact that they were there?
The fact that they were
I guess
there.
my question is, if those same bars had been on the side, do y'all think it would have been acceptable?
It still didn't look good.
Right, and I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, so maybe it should say something like that subject to where does it say?
Like the ones he had were kind of U-shaped. They came out from the window and went around, almost like a cage.
Right.
Maybe if it was something more inset in the window frame, it would be a little less obvious.
So where did we add? Do we still have it in there?
It's on page 3.
Yeah, I mean,
That's just such an unusual spot. You have people dining and looking at that. It just looks so.
yeah.
You don't see that.
I mean, I think, we've all been, the old library where Florence School District, that's a good example. I mean, those are nice wrought iron, decorative, period correct grates that are over those
Agreed.
windows. And you go into many downtowns. I was in Raleigh not too long ago, and they have a lot of the windows that are right at sidewalk level, and almost all of those had decorative bars over them because they were very accessible. I mean, you could kick them in many cases. So I think it's common in downtowns, but there's a huge difference in having very expensive decorative wrought iron gates or grates, and then these other grates that were obviously cheaper and didn't look near is nice, but I don't know that those fancy wrought iron gates would look right on that style building either, so it's,
That's the 1970s.
yeah.
But you could also get something that is more period correct, or, you know, more current, contemporary. It doesn't have to be, you know, overdone like that, but it could still be. I guess that's what for some reason I can't find. Where do we say that the corner?
Well, I would have to, that sentence in number 3 there, I could leave in that sentence and then add to it that corner lots have 2 fronts, or considered to have 2 fronts. And then that would also be a good place to include some standards of what you want the bars to look like.
Or should it just say subject to design
Review
board
board
approval?
I'm not sure I would leave it that open, honestly, you know, because, I mean, we're here talking about it now, but,
Right.
you know, 3 years from now, you know, 4 years from now, someone else, we have another, you know, board that may not be,
Right.
you know, aesthetically
Yeah.
inclined as us, or as you, Scott.
Yeah.
And may, you know, say, oh yeah, that's fine, you know. So I would be very specific with the language personally, you know, if you do allow it.
Do you want us to maybe draft up some language associated with the style and type of bars that could be allowed, and bring that back next month?
Yes.
We'd be glad to. I hate to keep delaying it, but we ran into the same issue with the sign code. You know, we started looking at sign code is very complicated when you get into it, and I felt like it needed a little bit more time for us to research and pull together, because where we had it wasn't quite descriptive enough, and there's a lot of modern technologies that have come about since these guidelines were put into place as well. So
Maybe we just allow it on the rear, and then we don't have to. Then it could be pretty much what you want. It's a rear door, because a lot of times people have, in addition to the door itself, they'll have another door, a grate door that goes over, you know, that's locked on top of that.
I mean, granted, I have a decorative door on the Eleanor building, but it's, you know, I mean, I didn't even think about it, but obviously it's very decorative, you know, but it's wrought iron, you know, nonetheless.
See, I don't think of that
I don't
as a
think of it.
security door.
Yeah.
I think of it
that door's
as,
there.
So,
you know, a compliment to the building more so
Yeah.
than anything.
So if we just did it where it was okay to do it on the back, then anything they do on the sides, we'd have to approve.
Then you wouldn't have to worry about what your next door neighbor
Right.
businesses, how it would affect
That's
them.
what I'm thinking. If you just allow it on the back, then we kind of solve the
and
problem.
prohibit it on the front and the sides.
Is that, I guess my question for that then would be, is that serving the security interests of the property owner?
I guess they could just well light the sides of their building if that is an issue and use deterrents.
Yeah, those are the I mean, some of the alternative measures we provide there.
Or
Maybe
with
that's-
shutters over your side windows or something.
Cameras, whatever. You know.
And there aren't that many buildings downtown with side windows. And my other question is, would you want anyone who wants to put in security bars, to, even if it's just for the rear, to bring that request to the board, or is that something we do administratively? Bring
I would
that
say
to-
still bring it to the board.
I agree. And not to kick the can down the road, but I would suggest we give it a little more thought. There's a lot of good conversations and questions going on just right here that
I think that means y'all give it more thought. It's really
kick the can.
We can, that's right. Well, and that's why we bring it before the board, to get suggestion and to get input and this discussion. I mean, this is what it's all about. Because we're a board, we have to do this in a public forum, you know, as opposed to an informal session. But this is what it's all about.
Well, I can make those changes and bring them back to y'all, and hopefully have the sign stuff done next month too.
Sounds good. So we'll move that to our October 12th meeting.
Yeah. Can we get a motion to defer it?
I move to defer.
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion will be deferred and heard on October 12th. Our second and final case today is case number DRB 2022-33. It's a request for a certificate of appropriateness for 2 monument signs to be located at 221 West Darlington Street, tax map number 90086-01-012, located in the D2 Downtown Overlay District. Staff?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the property owner of On The Go at 221 West Arlington Street. Here's the vicinity map. It is in the redevelopment overlay district as well as the downtown central overlay district. The location map shows they'll have an entrance off of North Irby Street as well as off of West Darlington Street. And it is in the activity center zoning district, which is mixed use outside of the central business district. So here's the proposed site plan for the monument signs with the red denoting location. On The Go number 3 received approval from this board December 8th, 2021. They received permission to construct a fueling station to include a 4,800 square foot convenience store with the entrances off of West Darlington and North Irby. And they would also have a 4,500 square foot canopy to cover 7 fuel pumps. And that would be to the west of the convenience store. And you can sort of see that there at the bottom. It's kind of a busy site plan. Signage details were not provided at that initial meeting with the understanding that they would come back at a later time. And this is the later time. So here are the proposed monument signs that they do want to install at both those entrances. West Darlington Street, North Irby Street. Here's some site plans. You can sort of see the forms, the outline of the building, and of course it's under construction at this time. There are here's some monument signs that are in the redevelopment overlay district that have been approved in the past. Save a Lot, South State Bank, Wells Fargo. And then their price point will include an LED sign. So here's some examples of some LED signs from the redevelopment overlay district. As far as the design guidelines, in Chapter 4 it recommends that the sign material should be compatible with the design of the face of the facade where it is to be placed, and On The Go will mostly be made up of a brick facade. And then any backlit or internally lit sign, like what they are proposing, needs design review board approval. So, and also in Chapter 5, it does recommend on Irby Street and Dargan Street that the future there will be street trees, that a monument sign would be most visible. So the proposed monument signs will be placed at both West Darlington Street, North Irby Street. It meets the Unified Development Ordinance as required in the AC zoning district. It will meet the height limitations and the square footage. And the setback is 0 feet, but on the site plan it does show that it will be placed behind the sidewalk such that driver visibility should not be hindered in any way. The signs will both be 43 square feet, with the entire sign structure being 5 feet wide, 8 feet long, 8 feet in height. They'll both have concrete foundations with the brick at the bottom, supported by rebar, brick and mortar bases. It will be an acrylic sign box, and both will have LED lights to display price point. And that does conclude staff's report.
Okay. Anyone have any questions of staff? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the hearing and open it up for discussion or a motion.
I make a motion that we accept as proposed.
Second.
I'll say.
All in favor? Motion carries. And that's our last case for today, guys. I appreciate everyone's time, and our next scheduled meeting is on October 12th.
It's about 25 minutes. It's pretty good.
We're adjourned.